Good morning and welcome to Grey Wolf Adornments and More. My name is Lisa and I welcome you to the blog today. Today we're going to talk about, because I, I, I want to share with you the things that I'm doing as an individual to try to make my home a more sustainable place and to reduce my carbon footprint, so to speak. And so one of the things that I'm going to show you today is the garden that I planted. Even though I'm having surgery on the 20th, I really wanted to plant a fall garden. One of the things that I'm doing is, as an individual, is to try to grow some of my own food. And I have a very small backyard, so I can't grow a lot, but I can grow some. And the more I learn about growing food, the more I'll be able to produce in a very small space. So today I'm going to give you the garden tour and show you what I'm doing to help my household be more sustainable. And then I'm going to show you a few, just a couple other things. So if you're interested, stay tuned. I also invite you to like the video and subscribe. And so stay tuned and we'll get started on that tour. Alrighty, so this is pretty much what's left of my spring and summer garden. The flowers are still blooming. This thing got so tall. The package said they would get 2 or 3 feet tall. They're more like 6 foot tall. Those are, I believe those are marigolds. There's a form of marigold. They're very beautiful. I love them. Back there is what's left of the morning glories. When I'm able to, I'm gonna get out here and clean all those vines off the fence. But that'll probably not be till after the first frost kills everything off, because until the frost comes, I'm just gonna let them grow. You know, they were some very beautiful blue flowers. I really love those morning glories. So let's actually go inside the garden now. And I've done a lot of cleaning in the garden since I pulled up all the spring. I still have herbs growing over here. The rosemary is a permanent part of the garden. That rosemary will stay there. I may go ahead and rip up this oregano, or actually I think this is basil that's growing on either side. Even though the tag says oregano, I don't think it really is. I think it's basil. But this one has already gone to seed. I kind of intended to dry some of this, and that's not what happened. I got sick and everything kind of got out of hand. Now this row is supposed to be a row of cauliflower, and it has not come up, so I may have to replant that row. But this row is some cabbage, and later on this afternoon I'm going to get out here and thin some of this off. And this is broccoli right here in this row. And in this row is some beets that I planted. And here's some more marigolds. And marigolds repel the deer. The deer do not like marigolds. They will not eat a marigold. That's been my experience of our deer here where I live. And we have urban deer. It's so weird. We have urban deer. So this fence that's around is protecting this garden from our urban deer. Or suburban deer, whatever you want to call them. And these pepper plants were we're still producing for a while. As you can see, there is some little baby peppers on here. They won't produce anymore because peppers really like the heat. They don't like the cool, and it's gotten so cool now that that will be the only 2 peppers I get off of these plants. So I have some more potatoes growing over here in the grow bags, in the buckets. A couple of them did not come up after I planted it, and that's okay. I can plant some more. We always have potatoes around with eyes on them. And so I have some watermelon growing here in this patch. I'm just going to let them grow and see what happens till I'll come and pull them off before we get to the first frost, or I'll have somebody pull them off. But unfortunately, they're not frost hardy, and they also like the heat, so I'm not sure how big these are gonna get. But I'm gonna leave them growing until I can't anymore and have to, and then I'll pull them in the house and see what's up with that. And so over here is our one and only cantaloupe from the summer. Again, I'm letting it grow. Cantaloupes are summer fruits. They like the heat better. This one just about didn't make it. It's been pest decimated, and you know, it got so very hot. So I'm just kind of letting that grow till it gets ripe or the frost comes, whichever one comes first. But at the end of the summer, I'm gonna have to take the dirt out of this bed and put it on some pavers underneath it, because these back legs are sinking in the ground down there, and that's not good for it. So I planted some lettuce here, and I'm not sure if this is lettuce or just some kind of seeds that were in the dirt that I put. But there's an awful lot of them, and I only planted halfway, so I'm not really sure what's growing there, but I'm gonna let it grow a little bit more and see what's up with that. I usually try to do the inbound beds with some squash or something that's easily recognizable, and for this reason, because I can't tell if that's a weed growing down there or if that's the lettuce that I planted. So it's gonna have to get a little bigger before I can determine that. And there's my strawberries have greened up a lot. The plants are surviving. They don't like the summer either. I'm thinking probably all that is weeds, because look at that. I don't know what that is, but I'm pulling that up. These beds need to be weeded before I have my surgery, so today I'm gonna be out here working. I planted some more lettuce over here. I'm not sure if it's gonna come up, but they were free seeds, so if they don't, it's okay with me. And that's another look so over here is where I planted all of my onions and garlic, and onions and garlic are very frost hardy. They like the cold, and so I am so excited. I'm hopeful for a good harvest of all of the onions and the onions and the garlic for the spring. Again, this one needs to be weeded. I have some beans that I planted just as an experiment, and some summer squash. I don't think that squash is gonna make it to produce. Again, they're just heat-loving plants, and they're not liking this cold so well. But I'm just gonna leave them in the ground, and if the frost gets them, then the frost gets them. And then we have a volunteer in the back, an onion volunteer, from the last time I planted onions, and so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this is my little garden. It is my teaching garden that's teaching me how to grow my own food and helping me learn my own sustainability into self-sufficiency. And so now let's move on and I'll show you what else I'm doing to help the environment. Okay, so I wanted to show you just a quick thing about the inside of my pantry. And so I have this all of my vegetables organized in alphabetical order. And I rotate everything first in, first out. And so this is part of the emergency preparedness that I have been trying to do with my own household. And it's also trying to get us prepared for my surgery. Now, this is stuff that's easy for my mother to fix. She is older, so and she doesn't really necessarily like to cook. So the canned food makes it a little easier for her, but it's also an insurance policy. So we keep canned goods here, but we also have some in our den area, and this basically is going to sustain us through my surgery and any emergency there might have to be. So we keep all the canned goods here, and then in our and then we have some of our spices here. Now, eventually I plan to replace all the spices that are in these jars with stuff that I grow myself, because I have rosemary in the garden and I have garlic growing in the garden. The things that I can't grow well myself would be like stuff like cinnamon and the vanilla. So eventually I plan to have this area stocked with my own homegrown spices. So that's where I intend to go in the future. Okay, so this is the inside of the freezer, and so that's stuff that my nephew bought for his lunches. And so I decided, in order to get us prepared for my hospital stay, I have stuff that my mother, I've already pre-prepared it. All my mom has to do is throw it in the oven and heat it up. We have that extra thing of bread in here. But this is all, it's full and it's all prepared for my mother, so she doesn't have to work so hard while I'm in the hospital and while I'm recovering. All she has to do is heat this stuff up, so it makes it a lot easier for her. And eventually I'd like to replace these tins with some reusable metal or glass pans, but they're kind of expensive, so I'm gonna have to buy them one at a time. But I plan on doing a lot more food prep to make it easier on us in the future, and especially when I'm tired from work. Now over here is the rest of our my food preps. Again, this is for emergencies and to sustain us while I'm in post surgery and pardon me, and I don't have as much income going in. This supply of canned foods can sustain us, so all we have to do is buy staples and the stuff we run out of, like meat or bread or eggs, stuff that we go through on a weekly basis. It reduces our grocery budget. So eventually I hope to grow enough in my garden to start canning some of my own food, so we can replace this canned food storage with homegrown storage. And also back here is a lot of containers that I have been saving, to make some of what I grow. It doesn't have to be canned, or it can be refrigerated, so I plan to reuse some of these packaging. But this is just a hodgepodge of stuff that won't reasonably fit in our kitchen, or it's overstock. And so it's just stuff that we keep on hand to sustain us, especially through the surgery. And if there's an emergency, there's at least 3 months. Well, I say 3 months. There's at least a couple of months worth of food in here that will sustain us while I'm trying to recover from my surgery. So if there's one avenue where I've kind of failed to make an impression on our family, it's just with this. Now, on the one hand, storing water in bottles like this makes sense for emergencies. If there's an emergency, like there's, a tornado and the weather's out or the power's out for a few days, and you can't use the water. When there's a natural disaster emergency, bottled water is probably going to be your salvation. However, the bottles to use on a daily basis are just they're they're just super bad, horrible for the environment. And if there's a failure in our household, it's this, because I haven't been able to figure out how to get us off the bottled water, because our tap water is amazingly polluted. It just is. It's just bad. It tastes bad. It smells like the lake. It tastes like the lake. It just is bad. So I haven't been able to get us off that. The other thing I struggle with a lot is the paper towels. Getting us to use more regular cloth towels than paper towels has been a struggle. So as you can see, we still have lots of paper towels that we use in the house, and so I'd like to get us to reduce the amount of both bottled water and paper towels that we use. But like I said, this is something that I've struggled with for a while now. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. All right, so I'm a coffee drinker. I love my morning cup of joe. And so this morning I wanted to or today for this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I try to make my coffee service a little bit greener. Now, if you're just looking at this, you might think, oh, this is how is buying these plastic things greener. And so I don't know if you noticed from the previous video, but in my den, I have some bulk bags of coffee, or a bulk bag of coffee, and a very huge thing of coffee creamer that I buy from Sam's. And then when these two are empty, I just refill them. So even though it says it's Coffee Mate, it's really not. I buy these little ones in the interim, in between. If I run out before I can get to Sam's, I do buy these in an emergency. But then I just refill them. I just keep refilling it and refilling it and refilling it and refilling it, and wash it in between times. And so I just keep, and I also refill the coffee. And then so I use the little mugs. I don't use disposables. I use the mugs, and I do use the little mug rugs that I sell on my website. I do use those for my spoons. I don't use paper towels. I used to, but I changed and used paper towels. And then we also have a glass sugar dish for my sugar. And so I try very hard to eliminate some of the waste. And these things get recycled when they are empty. We do have a curbside recycle service that will accept these. It's not wish cycling. They do actually accept this form of plastic in our recycle bins. So I do recycle them when I can't use them anymore. And also, one of the efforts that I've made to try to reduce the amount of bottled water that we use in the house is to buy this zero water filtration system. It does work to get all the gross minerals and stuff out of the water, but it does not do anything for the smell or the taste. So I've experimented with a few different things to trying to combat that. The other thing I have is that occasionally, as time goes by, the water kind of has a slimy kind of texture to it. And so I'm learning that you have to wash these more often and change the filter more often than it says. The drawback I have with that is that the filters in here are expensive. They're $14 or $15 a piece, and $30 to buy two at a time. So they are kind of expensive. However, I do like this because it does take all of the solids out of the water. So that's my coffee service, and that's what I'm doing to try to reduce my waste in my coffee service. So going forward, I'm not going to be able to eat as much bread, because I'm not going to have my whole pancreas anymore. But what I want to design, after the surgery, I'm going to start working on this. But what I want to design is a replacement for this paper towel, and maybe design some cloth reusable towels, that I could use, in place of this paper towel that I would use for these. And to do this, it's because I don't want to, use up so many plates that have to be washed, but then I don't want to use disposables either. So a reusable toweling, can be just, thrown in the wash. But it needs to be a smaller one like this instead of a regular dish towel. So that's what I'm going to work on next, is just trying to design a replacement for this paper towel. This is my mama, and she's loading the refrigerator with said bottled waters. Say hello, mama. Okay, so I wanted to talk about these alternatives that I try to use. So the rest of my family likes paper napkins, but me, I like to use these reusable cloth napkins. And I have a whole pile of them, but I'm the only one that uses them, and that's okay. So if your household is like mine, where only part of you are trying to live green, that's okay. You can do a workaround like I do. So these are the little mug rugs. This is what they look like after you wash them. They're pretty durable, and I use them for my spoons and my cups sometimes. And of course, there's the kitchen towels that we use. And this is my setup over here. So I have one basket where I keep all my clean linens in, and then the other basket is for my dirty. And I just washed everything, so of course that one's empty. But I only really need to wash them maybe once a week, and that cuts down on a lot of stuff hitting the landfill.